Hey, what's up? Tim Cant here. And in this video, I'm going to talk about something that I found enormously helpful when I was really struggling with music production, referencing. But first, let's talk about the secret sauce. I am constantly getting marketing emails about something that is described as being the secret sauce, i.e. a product that will take your productions from sounding alright to professional quality. The most recent of these was an EQ, which seemed like a particularly ludicrous proposition. An EQ plugin is the missing element from your music? This EQ is so different from the stock EQ in your DAW that it's going to radically transform your music from unsatisfactory to amazing? Obviously, this is a load of, to put it politely, nonsense. Now, don't get me wrong, I like a nice third-party EQ plugin, and sometimes I use SideQ for more analog feel over ProQ, which is my bread and butter EQ. But suggesting that an EQ is going to make or break your music is absurd. I've been getting marketing emails containing the phrase secret sauce since 2015, and these numbers have been on the rise, especially during the lockdowns of the early 2020s, when music software publishers really began aiming at a mass market because there was more of a, literally, captive audience. Don't know what happened in 2022 though. Now, I'm not going to suggest that previous to this, the music tech industry didn't use secret sauce-esque marketing to appeal to music makers, nor am I going to suggest that there aren't certain products or devices that can really help you out if you're trying to achieve a specific style. For example, breakbeats are pretty essential if you want to make breakbeat hardcore, a 303 is handy if you want to make acid house, and so on. However, I feel these secret sauce claims are becoming increasingly wild in an attempt to boost sales from less experienced users. For me, the secret sauce wasn't a specific product, but a technique that helped me better understand mixing and arrangement. Referencing can be as simple as getting a high-quality audio file of a track that you aspire to emulate and popping it into an audio track in your DAW. This is useful in a few ways, the primary one being you can hear how a great mix and master sounds on the monitors you actually use to make music. You might make music on monitors all the time, but where do you predominantly consume music? It could well be on your headphones, in your car, or via your telly, and the same tune will sound different on all those devices, even if the audio is coming from the same source file. Different reproductive equipment will sound different due to many factors, so having a listen to a piece of music in your actual music making environment can be revealing, to put it mildly.
Oh, you made me feel alive.
When I'm making a tune, I like to have several reference tracks in my project so that I can hear how I'm getting on relative to them. It's helpful to be able to swap between tracks quickly, because typically our ears aren't great at comparing things over time, so being able to switch instantly is useful indeed. When I'm picking reference tracks, I like to go for tunes that are well produced, recent, and in a similar style using similar elements. I wouldn't use a jump-up tune to reference a Liquid D&B project, because if I was to try and make my jazzy electric piano chords have a similar audio profile to tearing mid-range wobs, I probably wouldn't get a very good result. Questions I might ask myself are, are my drums loud enough? Are they too loud? Are my drums too punchy? Are they punchy enough? Are the musical elements getting in the way of the drums and the bass line? How's the width of my musical elements? Is there too much going on in the mid-channel? Are my beats defined and rhythmic enough? Is my track too harsh and brittle in the highs? Is my mix loud enough overall? That last one is very important, because the tracks you get from, say, Bandcamp, Beatport or Apple Music will almost certainly have been mastered, perhaps by a professional mastering engineer. The mastering process typically reduces dynamic range with limiting, compression or clipping. As such, your track will probably sound much quieter even if they have the same peak level. It's not a very helpful comparison in this case, and while you could simply turn the mastered tracks down so that they're a similar level of perceived loudness, I prefer to add a clipper to my master so I can hear how loud my tracks can be pushed. If I can get my mix somewhere close to a professional master by increasing the gain level in the clipper, I know that a mastering engineer will be able to push it too. If my mix distorts before I get there, I know that I've got more work to do, and you can see a practical real-life example of this in my video making an atmospheric drum and bass tune, and I'll link to that specific part in the description of the video. Of course, if my reference tracks are being routed to the master, they're going to be hitting the clipper too, so I simply route them directly to my interface's main outputs, therefore bypassing the clipper and keeping them unprocessed. With this method, I get a good idea of how loud I can get my tracks as I work on them, and I can bypass the clipper plugin to get a better idea of how my track's dynamics sound without the dynamic range reduction. When it's time to make a pre-master, I'll bypass the clipper and ensure my track is peaking around -6 dB, so I know that I'm definitely not going to be inadvertently clipping the master, and some mastering engineers like to have stuff at this level. If I just want to make a DIY master to play out or test at home, I'll leave the clipper on and explore. In fact, I have a dedicated project just for referencing where I'll put all of my releases and work in progress tracks so I can get a good idea of how everything is sounding and ensure that my mixdowns aren't in fact getting worse. I've found this method of clipping and referencing invaluable, and while it's not the only thing you need to know about music production, it's the #1 thing I recommend to people who are struggling to achieve mixes that compare to other tracks in a genre. That's not all putting a tune into your project can help you with. If you're struggling with arrangement, or getting stuck making loops, and you're not sure how to develop your tracks into a complete piece of music, then I recommend analysing a track and seeing how it develops over time. Here I've got a tune running at 172 BPM, and I've changed Live's project tempo to 172 BPM. Now I can slice up each 16 bar section and analyse it. So now we can hear 16 bars after the drop, which elements are added, how long the intro is, how long the breakdowns are, and so on. If we zoom in, we can examine tracks at a smaller scale. For example, here's a house tune, and we can see as well as hear how the swing is working. Using a spectral analyzer such as the excellent free Span can give you a better understanding of what these mixes are doing too. In addition to being able to make a good mix, it's important to understand the rules of the genre you're making so you can adhere to them and perhaps bend or break them in interesting ways. Analysing tracks and critical listening will help you understand what sounds genres use and how they use them. There are no real shortcuts to learning how to make any type of music, so I would suggest rather than investing in products that claim to be a silver bullet, if you're really passionate about making music, use music to help you learn and understand it yourself. Thanks for watching. I offer personal tuition. If you're interested, there's a link in the description. And until I see you again, have fun making music. Bye bye.